Hey folks, welcome back to Shadow Empire. I've got an idea for a video, and I think this is something that people will be happy to see. I want to talk about the profiles in the game. I was actually thinking about doing this as a Shadow Empire strategy podcast, and I will do at some point. But I think that being able to, for you to see it with me talking through and being able to, for me to do it live is probably going to be a little bit more deep and in depth. The downside to that is that, as you know, I have a habit of rambling, so I'm going to try to keep this to the point as much as I can, but just be aware that I am battle mode, I'm Ben, and I like to talk. So if you're the sort of person who likes more structured stuff, you might want to wait for the SCS podcast episode on that. But here, I'm actually just going to go through them, and I'm going to talk about the different regime feats that you get, in all of these, and what my experience of them is. By the way, I haven't even seen some of these before, I've got to be honest with you, and some of them are different to some are more difficult to get and retain than the others, and some of them don't really appeal to my playstyle so much, so it just depends. Remember, every game of Shadow Empire is different. Now, I've actually opened this one up on the game that I completed for Explorminate, the big long series, the 3 Skulls Let's Play. So this is where I was the High Priest of the Pre-Skulls, the 3 Skulls group, and I had at the end of the game about 52 different zones. And the reason why I had this many zones is partly because I was building my own city, building my own colonies, and then I just took over a lot of stuff. Now this is what happens, by the way, when you get a huge map with survival stress on. You end up with massive amounts of zones. There was something like 100, there was over 100 regimes in this one. There was a huge amount of regimes. Let me have a look. I can't remember where it would tell you now, but there was lots in this game. It was really crazy. But actually, we'll be in the apocalypse, won't it? Or planet overview. There we are. So there were 11 major regimes and 110 minors on this one. So this was a big game. The reason why I'm telling you about this is because I think that playing certain playstyles will favour certain regime feats, and so every game of Shadow Empire is different. So just because you might not have seen why certain ones of these might be useful, you might think it's a no-brainer to always go in democracy, for example, or autocracy or meritocracy, but actually it's not always that simple. And I actually had to think about this, because I was thinking, like, why would you ever take autocracy? And then I put a post up on the Matrix forum, and then I had a few replies, and Vic himself replied and kind of reminded me of some stuff that this does actually. So without further ado, let's just talk quickly about what the profiles are for those who don't really know. I think this is like a sort of tech tree for your government and for your civilization and your society and the philosophies that you have. And basically, at the basic level, these give you a bunch of bonuses and access to certain stratagem cards and unit feats. So amongst other things, but kind of primarily the first thing you're thinking about is certain bonuses that we're going for. And at the start of the game, you get to pick, in your history class, you get to pick one of them. Now, most pertinently, at the start of the game, this choice that you get here will decide which of the it depends on the kind of government type that you have, or your kind of closed council circle. So you've with autocracy, for example, you get the Politburo. Let's just go to, where are we? I don't remember where we see this. We got the profile overview. Yeah, that's just telling us about the profiles. I can try and remember where you actually see this now. It's the cabinet overview, that's it. So we've got a cabinet, okay? And I think the cabinet... There's different types. There's one for each type. So you've got the democracy gives you one type. I forgot the names of them now. Meritocracy gives you another, and then autocracy gives you the Politburo. I forget what what the different ones are called now. But yeah, so that's one thing that you've got to consider. So when we're talking about democracy, if we start with this branch here, these 3, you've got the option between democracy, autocracy, and meritocracy. And so usually what I'm doing when I'm starting a game, I want to think, what kind of game am I going to play right now? The democracy and meritocracy give you 2 very obvious bonuses at the start of the game. Engaged politicians here, which you'll get kind of early, is you get a 40% political bonus. So this gives you political points. Like, this gives you a bonus to your political points, and it's just really powerful, because 40% to your political points is huge. It's really big, and it helps you get stuff done. Now, this whole game really is about building up bureaucratic points and political points. Political points are less important than bureaucratic points, but political points, you need these to basically play stratagems and to make decisions. So having a political bonus of 40% is really, really big. And so this is what you get with engaged politicians. You also get the recruit civilian card, which is a really nice card if you want to get a good governor or something. Sometimes the civilians are actually they're generally better than they can be better than the junior cards that you kind of get from the Supreme Command Council stratagem pick. So this is a nice card. So this is why you would take democracy, is because you want to max out your political points. So let's say the alternative, really, the obvious alternative is meritocracy, which is it gives you a diplomacy bonus. That might seem like, so diplomacy roles are quite important. They're important in the way that your leaders deal with one another to some extent, some of the stratagem cards that you make, and also many of the decisions that come in. So diplomacy is it's quite an important thing. However, this seems like a bit of a no-brainer. Like 40% political bonus giving you the political point bonus, it seems like a huge no-brainer. The thing is, choosing democracy at the start of the game will give you the cabinet type that means that you will get more decisions from the factions. This is something that I'd forgotten about, and the Victim actually reminded me of. And autocracy actually gives you the least. So you get the Politburo, and you've got kind of a closed circle of leaders around you who are kind of close to you as the supreme leader, right? And you get the factions and the people will give you less decisions. So if you don't like dealing with the decisions so much, and if you find that all these promises that you're having to make and keep are kind of annoying or difficult, then you can go into autocracy. The problem with autocracy is you'll note that out of the three, it's the only one that doesn't give you this percentage bonus to something. Well, this is not the diplomacy rolls plus 30 is not a percentage bonus, but you see that it's a big thing. By the way, recruit talent's a really good card as well. This comes early in meritocracy, and being able to recruit talent with the interior council means you can get some very powerful leaders. The other thing is that I'm not confirmed this 100%, but I'm about 99.9% sure that meritocracy, by taking that and keeping it up, you get better leaders. Okay, not just through the cards, but the pool of leaders that you get at the start just seems to be better. And if you take democracy, it just seems to be really bad. Like, you get worse leaders with democracy, at least in my experience. Now, I don't know if that's hard coded into the game, but it's possible. So okay, so when you're thinking about this, democracy can be really, really good if you want the political point bonus. Later on, you get in conflict resolution, which is you need I think it was, that's 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Oh, no, yeah, that's right. So after 50%, after 50, then you can get this 50 points. You get a quality of life bonus plus 50%. This is massive. Okay, so quality of life is really important in this game. It's important. Let's say that you've got a zone, and you need more people to come into your zone because you want to grow it up to the next level. Let's say that you want a new, you need to get a factory, a better factory level. You can't do that until your population has grown, right? And because you've got all sorts of stuff going on, and like disasters happening and quack doctors and all this kind of stuff, bad decisions going off. Often you get in population leaving, or you've got high danger, or you're having to stomp down on rebellions, uprisings, and you're losing population. So quality of life is this score here, and it's how you get health, security, education, and entertainment. These are all quality of life buildings. Now they can either be built with the private sector. So the private sector will build stuff like these libraries, which give you education, waste gives you health, etc. Right? Or you can build them yourself. So you've got like the university, the hospital, and you can build them as these kind of buildings, and these take upkeep. Now, so by the way, so getting 50% quality of life bonus, this just makes this score like 50% better. This means that your civilization score is going to go up. That means that you're going to be happier. Your people are going to be happier. You need to pay them less, and you just don't need to give them a massive. Look at this. In my major city here, Skull Tower, I'm paying my salary. The salary is just 1 credit, right? And partly that's because. That's probably because of this, this quality of life bonus we're getting here is just making people happier, because we've just got an extreme civilization. Like, this is like the high tech. We're in a high tech like city here. So anyway, this is huge conflict resolution. So engaged politicians is really good. Conflict resolution is good. This Cabinet retreat, that's quite a good card. It just gives you an experience bonus to all your cabinet. The negotiator is okay. Next we've got open politics, which is just further pushes up your political bonus. Due procedure gives you a quality of life bonus of 100%, so this doubles your quality of life bonus. Okay, now the quality of life bonus, by the way, isn't just immediately applied to your score. I can't remember quite how it works, but you have these bonus points essentially, and the bonus points contribute to your score, if I remember right. So having this quality of life bonus is really, really big, and it just makes it so that your civilization just grows. So really, if you want to grow your civilization very fast, or your empire very fast, then you want to climb up to due procedure, get that QOL bonus, get the political bonus points, because then you can start playing more stratagem cards. You can, for example, let's just see if we've got anything here that I can play. So like prospecting push, so you could get more prospecting done and find more materials if you need it. You can play all these different cards to add these assets. Having political points is huge. It's huge, man. You can use it to get emergency tax if you need money desperately. The political points basically translate into bonuses for your empire through these stratagem cards. So democracy is really, really powerful. The downside is that, in my opinion, you get worse leaders, and the meritocracy, having meritocracy's got some interesting stuff. I'm going to look at autocracy last. I think the autocracy at the moment, it might be the weakest of the lot, but I'll look at it in a moment and I'll tell you why I might pick that. So yeah, so you see what democracy gives you. By the way, yeah, you get 150% quality of life bonus if you can make it this far. In this game I actually got quite high into democracy, and the reason being was because I was swimming in money. Whenever I had any problems, like like a riot or worker strikes, I just paid them. So it's quite easy to raise democracy. Until Oceania, meritocracy was difficult to keep up, but I've noticed that there's way more decisions now, or that there seems to be more decisions that help meritocracy in this latest round of updates and DLC stuff. So it might just be in the base game, but it's certainly, I've noticed it since the Oceania came out, that there's more meritocracy stuff. So meritocracy is now easier to get and keep, whereas before it was easier to get at the start of the game. But then the main way to gain democracy and autocracy is to push. When you get these decisions for uprisings, you tend to either say, well, I want to fight, you just get your security just to smash it, like with an iron fist, and then you get autocracy points and you lose people, or you pay them with democracy and you lose money and you get democracy points then. So these two are really easy to gain and keep later in the game, but meritocracy was more awkward. Now it seems to be a little bit easier, but it's deliberately made like that. Meritocracy isn't a difficult thing to kind of go into and keep anyway. It's a difficult and complex topic in real life, to be honest. So I like how that's modeled. Okay. Why would you want to go into meritocracy then? Well, I've already told you that you get better leaders. You do get better leaders. You tend to get higher capability leaders. So if you've got a bunch of leaders that are, let's just go to capability level. Look, I got quite a lot of good leaders on this game because I started in meritocracy. I at least got a few points in meritocracy. So you get a capability 5. This is really rare. Look at this, intelligence 89. This is like ridiculous leader. And she's been alive for a long time. She's 60, but she's just got some incredible, like, she was, who was she in my game? She was the director of the Military Research Council, right? But she's amazing and intimidate as well. I could have put her into either, I think it would be the the Secret Service Council or the Internal Council. She might have been able to use that. Really, really high investigation skill. She's just, like, you could put her anywhere and she'd just be incredible. Anyway, so getting higher capability leaders is really, really good. They level up, from sort of 3 onwards, they level up really fast. You get someone like this, you can just put her in any job and she just levels up incredibly quickly. Like, you'll see that she'll just be, where's the history? You'll see, like she's constantly every turn, look, she's leveling up. Spent 14 points to improve inventor with 2 levels, blah, 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 blah. You can just see, and it just goes up and up and up and up and up and up. So they're going to level up super fast. They get good at whatever you want to put them in. So that's the main reason I think that why you would want to take meritocracy. But there is a couple of other reasons too. So accomplished envoys give you the diplomacy role. That's pretty good. Diplomacy is important, especially at the start of the game. Now, this is a good one. Capable supervisors. For every 1,000 population and worker, you get +1 food. Okay, so this actually just gives you a food bonus, and that can be really important in game. Like if you're playing on a Seth planet or another planet where there's not so much water, Food can be you know, or let's say that you've got to start in the middle of a desert, you don't have much in the way of power, and you've not researched, let's say you haven't managed to research any of these fuel techs, so you're relying on biofuel, which is really expensive to do. You know, it's really expensive to get running. This will help you. If you need to get biofuel up, well, having a food bonus will help. Let's go back to the profile tree. So yeah, but also just to feed your people. If you want to grow your, you know, this is a good one to go for, I think. If you are, let's say that you're not so fussed about democracy, you don't care about the quality of life bonuses, you might be wanting to do a more militaristic kind of playthrough first. Being able to have more food is just always helpful. Martial tournaments, however, this is where meritocracy starts getting really powerful. So what card was this? Oh yeah, Grand Convention is a good card. Good for leveling, you know, like basically translating political points directly into experience for your leaders. Martial tournaments gives you a 25 a plus 25 bonus on your operational command rolls. So when you're fighting, right, let's just see if we've got any fighting to do. I'm going to get Russell crowing on this. Let me just try and find somewhere where there is some kind of combat going on. Okay, so we've already, I think it looks like we've already done most of this turn. I'm not going to roll the turn because on this map it literally takes about 10 minutes to roll. But let's say, right, okay, let's say we'll just do this combat here and we're going to attack some tanks. Now, your OHQ commander, in fact, let's just do them all from one OHQ. Like when you're fighting, right, let's just pause it. So what happens is your operational commander is rolling, he's making rolls every turn to give them bonuses. Now this gives you a bonus to your attack power and a bonuses to your hit points, and he makes a skill roll every time. Having a 25%, you know, a plus 25 bonus is huge. Okay, it's really, really big. So you can see here it says operational command skill rolls gave 15% attack power bonus and 15% hit points bonus. So you know, if you've got an otherwise close run battle, this can really, really tip the scale, you know, tip the scales in your favor. So 25% combat, you know, operational command roll is pretty big. Okay, so don't overlook that one. Martial tournaments is really good. You also get the champion. This is a really, really good unit feat. So this one, if you've got, you know, any troops it is embedded with, if you score a hit on an enemy and it wasn't going to be a kill, right? You know, let's say you fail to get over its hit point, you know, over its defensive score and its hit points, you actually just roll a 50% chance, and if you get, you know, you flip a coin basically, and if you get heads, you actually get a kill. So this is really good for just killing stuff. Like that is I've not used this a whole lot, or I don't remember using it like consciously, but man, now I look at it, right, 50% chance to kill to turn a hit into a kill is really, really big. Administrative competence gives you administration rolls plus 40. So this is going to help your, you know, just general empire competency, right? So an administration role will be made in the case. Let's say we just look at this city here, this town here, and we look at one of its assets. So what's it got? That's not a good example. Let's go back to Skull Tower, which was our big. Where was it? We can click on this button here, can't we? There we go. Right. So go to Skull Tower. Look, and we look at. Let's see if we've got a farming asset somewhere. Where are we? Hydroponics. Okay, we just click on that. So there is the governor will modify. Now this one's a food production, right? But administration, if I remember right, I can't remember which one it affects exactly. Whether it's just money or whether it's kind of just made as a general skill roll. Might be able to look at actually if we just look at this dude. Yeah, he's got really high administration. He's been the governor of this place for quite a long time, I think. Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he was. I put him as the governor of Skull Tower in Ryan 98, so he's been there for about 50 turns. Did he improve administration in all that time? Just remind myself of what administration actually does. I might be getting this one wrong. Okay, so it's used in many stratagems, boost to private credits and some organization tasks. Okay, so it's not like the farming stuff. That's the specific farming skill, but it will boost private credits. So I guess if we look here, look at private funds. I'm not sure if this gives you a breakdown. You could probably find that somewhere else anyway. But administration is going to give you basically more private economy stuff. Okay, that's kind of new to me. Then we get the tough NCO. This gives a 50% bonus on their defense value. Again, that's really, really high. You have to go quite high into meritocracy to get that, by the way. Getting 70 in meritocracy is pretty difficult. I don't think I've ever actually been over that. Capable small business gives per 1,000 population plus 2 credits. Okay, so this just gives you a credit boost depending on the size of your empire. You might want to go into meritocracy if you've got a big empire like this and you're really wanting to max out your money. This might be good on Oceania, although to be honest, I think getting a map like this in Oceania is probably not likely. You're not going to get so many zones, but you know, let's say that you've got a lot of population. That could be a useful thing. Then we've got competitive culture, which is leader capability plus 50%. Now, I'm going to assume that means that when you get a new leader, their capability goes up. I don't know if that means, just generally speaking, all of their capability goes up. I need to ask Vic on that one, but anyway, this to get 90% to get 90% meritocracy is really, really hard anyway. But all of these, basically, meritocracy is an interesting one. It's kind of hard to get into, but it's got some really powerful stuff. You know, of obvious note is martial tournaments. That's a really good one. Administration roles plus 40 sounds really, really good if you've got a big private economy as well. Okay, so we've talked about democracy, we've talked about meritocracy. Let's have a quick look at autocracy. This seems like one that you probably wouldn't take early on. There's no bonus right at the start. However, it has got some interesting stuff. It's got this unit feat called Bunker Busters, and this is better than it looks. So any troops embedded with, that are embedded with always reduce 50% of entrenchment points for target they attack. So if you're attacking into a city, whether you know, or like into some ruins, or maybe high mountains, or you're attacking a unit that's got the entrench card, and they've got like 300 or 400 entrenchment or something ridiculous, which you can get. Well, that's just going to make their hit points like 400, you know, plus 400%. So they're just going to have a massive hit point pool. This can help reduce it a little bit. So if you've got these guys and you're attacking into a city, it can really make it a lot easier, and they are super effective as well. So that's one reason. If you're planning on taking, you know, getting into early wars, let's say playing a multiplayer game or a head-to-head game, autocracy might be a good choice. You've also got call to power. So there's a bunch of call to power stratagems. These are sort of situationally useful. So this kind of makes, yeah, this basically makes other troop leaders and NCOs unhappy, basically. So yeah, we've got call to power 3 here. This basically raises our ambition. I think it can potentially cause rebellions. I think that's what you're going to use it for. I haven't really used that successfully, I've got to be honest with you. But yeah, forced relocation. This rounds up barbaric free folk from the countryside and forces them to relocate to the city. I think this one has some downsides, but basically this, if you need people getting into your cities faster, you can use that. Submission gives you just a bunch of cards, but assassinate leader is quite powerful. If you've got a really strong secret service guy, then you want this card here, the recruit special ops for that. I'll come to that in a minute, but yeah, you can basically assassinate any really bad leaders that you've got rather than paying for them to be retired. That's kind of useful, especially if you're, you know, if you've got a lot of leaders, you're having to accept a lot of these crappy leaders from factions in order to keep your factions happy. Then you can, you know, every now and again, you can just pop one of them off because they're annoying you. And it's better than it sounds. Pillage, I don't think I've used. Suppress unrest, I've used. That one's another one where you kind of basically switch political points for unhappiness, essentially. I think if you've got a good person, a good leader making the role, then it can be really good. Martial law gives you call to power 2, which I don't really rate that high, but you've got recruit special ops. Now, if you want to go into special ops and, you know, have like loads of spies all over the place and, you know, do a lot of these things like these call to power stratagems, there are a bunch of stratagems that you can use that come from covert ops that aren't just spying. So you've got like support faction if you want to make things difficult for your player, for your opponent. Yeah, you got call to rebellion as well. So yeah, this one can actually just outright cause a rebellion. So a success will result in 3d4% of population of a zone rebelling and unrest. Critical success gives you 4d4% of the population of a zone rebelling and unrest. So that one can be interesting because you just get a load of the population of an enemy zone to go out and then just to form an army, and they've got to deal with them. And, you know, not only could it potentially cause logistical issues for them, because let's say that you do it on a critical city, they might end up like, you know, the rebellion will often form in an area like this, and it'll just cut their troops off. So that's one thing. By the way, I'm theory crafting here. I haven't really used this, but I've seen how annoying rebellions are to deal with myself, so I know that they can be a bit of a problem. So anyway, that can be one thing that you might want to do if you've got a really strong spy master. There's loads of stuff you can do with the Secret Service Council, and it's kind of like cheat mode. If you've got like a super strong spy master, especially in a multiplayer game, it can be very, very difficult for the enemy to to resist your spying attempts. Then you can just kind of see everything they're doing. So if you want to go, that might be one reason why you want to go into autocracy early, and then go for that guy, get an early spy council up, and then start playing that game. So it's not a no. Like I was worried that I thought that autocracy was a bit of a no-brainer not to take. Like, why would you ever take that? But actually, there are some cool things in it. Reign of Fear. Reign of Fear just gives you the firing squad. Yeah, I kind of give you, like, if a troop's running away, then you can execute it, and then everyone else gets a 50 morale bonus. That might be quite useful. Then it also gives you Call to Power 3. Burned Earth. You can command the raising of zones, so you can just raise a zone if you want. So if you want to kind of go down that route, and Total Power, you can squash unrest with Totally Brutal Force. So this just unlocks. So raises a stratagem, and then you've got Razzia. Curfews, martial law, random arrest, whatever it takes to instill fear. So yeah, so I see this more as like a thematic thing. I don't know, maybe one of you guys who's watching who knows the game a little bit better than me might be able to tell me why you might want to go into autocracy. I think it's kind of fun to play that way if you want to play a sort of themed game, and some people like doing stuff like that. I certainly do sometimes. I actually started playing Shadow Empire playing with autocracy just because I just thought it sounded more fun, but we've all got a little autocrat inside of us just waiting to get out when we play video games. But there you go. So you've got a choice: democracy or meritocracy. Now, we are just taking these in isolation, by the way. You have to consider all of them in tandem because you've got to pick one of each three to kind of go into. And as you can see here in this game, in this band, I forget what this one's called now. Let me just have a look. Yeah, this is society. The top one's politics, and this one's psychology. That's it. So in this society section, you'll see that I've actually got a bit of a spread. I went into commerce. I can't remember if I started with that one, and then I went later on. I had got some government, so I could get a bureaucracy bonus, which is a really good. You really want to do this if you can, and then enforcement later on. I can't remember what order I did it in. Let's have a look at them individually. Enforcement is, if you want to, this basically gives you tax bonuses. That's one of the big things that this one does. So strong. Where are we? Loyalty oath. So discipline gives you a 50% tax bonus, and it also gives you an emergency tax card, which is an amazing way of just getting money just out of thin air. It does have a cost in a sense because you end up with you get a loss of loyalty in your zone when you do it, but it gives you money. Military enthusiasm can be useful too, and you also get this guy, military police. Yeah, 70% of retreat combat results are ignored, so that's really, really powerful. Like especially if you are fighting early. Efficiency goals gives you a 50% logistical bonus, which again is really, really big. It helps you squeeze out extra logistics for an early push. So if you've not got railed up yet, or you're pushing into let's say you're pushing into a new zone, like you've taken. Let's say we're attacking these guys here, right? And you've just kind of taken this zone here, and you haven't got the time to get the logistical stuff up. You haven't got like working truck stations because the zone you've just taken is damaged or whatever. Having that logistical bonus just helps. Like it means that you can just squeeze more out of your logistics. You can get more people down onto the front. You can actually feed more people on the front. You can feed that town that you've just taken, that you've destroyed all the logistics of, and everyone's starving. Like you can actually get more food in there. So the logistical bonus, really, really big. You should definitely consider that. Strong arming gives you a 100% recruitment bonus. So if you're on the war footing, you're trying to get people out because you need to get them to the front line, then that could be really, really big. I'm not going to go through all of these, by the way. Efficiency drive is a really good card. That's a way of getting, again, like emergency tax is a way of getting money. You're basically exchanging political points for money, and it'll give you a couple of thousand credits if you've got a decent bunch of zones. You can threaten leaders, draft recruits, suppress unrest. Yeah, you've got the elite trainer, gives you a chance for experience gain every round. So that can, if you want to get strong, really, really good units up quick. Citizen loyalty oath gives you the 100% tax bonus. Stick to the schedule gives you a 100% logistics bonus, and subjects to the state gives you a 200% recruitment bonus. So these don't give you any cards here. So But enforcement, right, this is a really good one. If you need money, like, I think this is going to be a popular choice now in Oceania, because you really need lots of credits. And credits are important. Okay, next we've got commerce. Commerce is if you want to build your private economy, basically, amongst other things. So free market, the first regime feat, gives you private economy bonus plus 40%. What that means is, I think that basically translates into more of these private buildings every, like quicker. So we go into this town here, you'll see these guys are currently building a doming farm community, and this is their private funds, right? And the private economy can run a surplus and result in growing private funds. Private funds can also be used by population. So basically, this is the private economy here. They're getting plus 360 credits. Now, does it tell you whether we're getting a bonus? Private asset income, hidden economy income, salary spending income. Okay. It's not telling you that particular bonus that you're getting, but basically this is where it's affecting it. This is the private economy. So if you've got a big bonus on that, you're just going to get more assets up quick, and that translates into civilization score, into more service tax. It's going to translate into things like, if you're lucky, you might get a light industry, and light industry just directly give you industrial points, which means that early on you don't have to go quite so hard into building industrial buildings, which sometimes on some maps it's really, really hard to get industry 1 up because you might not have any metal, so getting private industry up is a really good thing. So that's why you might want to go into commerce in a nutshell. It also has you can give money to the faction to make them happier. Private investment's a really good card. That basically just gives the private sector in a zone just a bunch of money so they can build a load of stuff. I did that in a recent Oceania game. I played this card a few times. It pumped thousands of credits into the economy, and then they like a couple of turns later, they got up private industry, and that directly translated into more industrial points. And in a game where you've not got any industrial points and you're desperate for them, wow, that can be a game changer. So next, we've got opportunism. This is a population happiness bonus. Happy population mean that you have to pay them less, basically. You have to worry less about getting quality of life up early. So, if your people are happy, they're going to sustain casualties better. You're going to get less decisions where they're rebelling. It's just, you really want that, okay? So it can be worth, I would always advise, if you can, getting a few points in this. The private economy bonus for 40%, and this one here, population happiness, they can be really, really worth going into. Just like discipline here, the tax bonus of 50% and the logistical bonus of 50%. These almost feel like no-brainers in most Shadow Empire games, unless you're paying quite peacefully. I think these are really important, and so are these two. Wealthy Friends gives you a commerce bonus of 100%. I'm trying to remember exactly which one commerce is. I think this is what the trading that's done with the automatic trading that's done between the zones with the trading houses and the maritime trading houses, if they're acting as your trading houses on the border. So you'll see. Let me just see if we can look at this. Let's look at a zone. You'll see that they actually do trading. Yeah, look. So population spent 22 credits on buying luxury products and services. They're buying things with, they buy stuff through the traders, and then you'll see that the leader as well will often be making trade, trade rolls, which helps. So helps governors to stimulate trade in the zones. Also a big boom when negotiating with traders with the SHQ commander, and also can give a good rebate on a buy or sell bonus on a sell. So also when you're using the manual trading, this helps here too. So you can get a bonus credit, and it will tell you sometimes if you're getting that bonus credit. That's usually through the SHQ commander, if I remember right. I think that's what he just said. So anyway, commerce bonus, pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily aim for that, but yeah, I mean, it's going to help. Money is really important in this game. Corporations gives you a private economy bonus of 80%, so that's just doubling up on the free market one. And then we've got private careers, which gives you a population happy bonus 100%, and then stock market as commerce bonus 200%. So, and then we're going to get a few, like these unit feats here. The moment the troops these guys are embedded with score a hit on an enemy, they'll steal 30% of their readiness and add that to that of their troops they're embedded with. Well, that's really, really good. Very good for long drawn out battles, wars, sorry. Troops, corporatist officer, troops he is embedded with will always stay at their initial readiness. Yeah, that's really, really good. So that means if you put them with a tank unit, for example, and you just keep pushing forwards, they're always going to have, you know, decent readiness. So they're always going to be strong to attack. That's quite a powerful unit feat. Don't overlook these things. They've got commercial gift, estate gift. I find that these cards are quite expensive to play. I usually don't have that much money. Later on in the game, when you've got lots of money, you can start playing some of these commerce-based cards. All right, let's go into government now. Bureaucracy is a bureaucratic bonus of 40%. It's huge, okay? As Daz Tactic noted recently, Shadow Empire really is a game about increasing bureaucracy points, because the bigger your bureaucracy, the bigger everything grows. You know, the quicker you get new models out, the quicker you get further into the tech tree with your economic and military councils. You know, it translates into the staff council for creating new formation types, for creating, you know, custom formations. It goes into the Secret Service Council, you know, to generate stratagems. It's used in everything, okay? It's really, really important. Massive thing. Look at this. You produced 9,849 bureaucratic points, and for bigger bureaucracy size, you received a minus 5,238 penalty. That's what happens when you've got 52 zones in your game, and you've gone way too high into bureaucratic points. So BP bonus of 40% is massive, okay? It's really, really big. You can get the government convention and bureaucratic push. Bureaucratic push is good. That just gives you bureaucratic points. You're switching political points for bureaucratic points. So, you know, if you need to get something done, you know, you really need to push out some research, you can do that. That might not seem like a big thing in most games. I think for those of you who kind of play on the lower difficulty settings, you won't, and also the lower research speeds, you won't always see things like this being that important in a game. But if you start playing on the slow research speed, where, you know, it can take dozens of turns before you even start seeing some of these, like, you know, kind of early text that you might get very, very early on in a normal research speed game, all of a sudden bureaucratic points become really, really important. So anything that boosts bureaucratic points can be really, really powerful. State companies gives you a public industrial bonus of 40%. I think that probably must mean, I don't know exactly what that one means. I think it might be I don't know if it's just the private, you know, the private industry assets. They just give you more of the private industry. Have we actually got that one? Where are we? Government? No, we haven't. I reckon that's probably what that does. It might just be for every asset that gives you, you know, actual resources. So, for example, let's go to one where we've got a dome farm here. That's creating 806 private food for the private economy, you know, for the public, for the private citizens. But it's also giving you 107 that's donated to this. I think that increases that as well. I think that's what that one does. So, you know, it's not just the private industry. It will be anything that gives you, anything that donates to the private sector as well as the public. Okay, so that was state companies. You can draft more workers. You can attract free folk. That's pretty cool. Workers' rights gives you a worker happiness bonus of 50%. So this means that this translates into having to pay workers less, because one of the things, amongst many of the things that can make workers unhappy, is if they're not getting paid enough. Now you'll see in my game, I'm paying my workers a lot, 12 credits, for example, or sometimes less. Sometimes I think it was 10 credits I was paying in one of the others. But that becomes expensive when you've got a lot of workers. Okay, if we go back to our zones overview, look, check out the amount of workers we've got in Skull Tower. We've got, what's that, 100,000 workers just in one zone. You know, I don't know if this does a summary of how many workers we've got in our entire zone. We might be able to see. Go to the regime statistics. Manpower. Okay, so workers. Yeah, we've got 1 million workers. So we've got 1 million workers in our whole nation. So obviously, the more you're paying, the more, you know, the more you're paying your workers. Sorry, the more money you're going to be spending, and that can be a massive issue. You look at the treasury cash flow overview on this ridiculous game that I'm playing, or I was playing. Salaries and bonuses, look. This is all the workers' salaries for each zone, for each one of these zones. And when you see the amount that I'm paying, the total amount is 11,500 credits just in worker salary. So you've got to be making in your empire at least 12,000 credits basically to be making any money. And actually, I'm losing something like 3,000 credits a turn here, and this is including all this forced sales income. So yeah, you can see why you might want to go into government, right? Getting a sorry, here we are, workers' rights. Getting a worker happiness bonus of 50% means that these guys are 50% happier. You can pay them less. I don't know exactly how much that would equate to in less money that you're spending. It also means that you're more resilient to issues like to danger in a zone, because they're going to be less bothered by the danger. Or if you've had to use autocracy, you've had to use your security forces and armies to brutally quell unrest, it's going to be less of a problem for them. That's another thing, by the way, that autocracy does that I forgot to tell you about. If you've got a high autocracy can help in a number of situations. It helps if you want to invade somebody you're friendly with. You'll get much less of a happiness penalty if you've got high autocracy. High autocracy also helps in certain of the negative epochs that come in. So if you've got like the one that, I think it's the one where the crisis of, it's one of the crises where you get unrest basically amongst your leaders, so they start getting rebellion, they start fomenting rebellions slowly. That one is mitigated, I think, by autocracy, if I remember right. So autocracy has a bunch of bonuses. Also, yeah, I think also if you have to use autocracy, the security forces to crush rebellions, you raise fear doing that and you drop danger. So you drop the danger, not the danger level, you drop the unrest level, but you gain fear. But fear also causes a happiness penalty. But if you got high autocracy, it mitigates some of that penalty. So sorry about that, I missed that earlier on. Okay. Yeah, so worker happiness bonus is really, really big. You can force relocate people, so you can round up people from the free folk from the countryside and force them to relocate to the city. Very much like the one that's in autocracy, but I think it's less damaging. You also can draft colonists, so you just need colonists quick. So you want to build a new colony. Central computer gives you a bureaucratic bonus of 60%. That's really, really big. Public industrial bonus of 60%. So that's that makes your public sector go bigger. This is an interesting thing, right? I think this game has got genius game design. Vic has really put in some incredible choices that you've got to make. Like, for example, this is really big. A 60% industrial bonus. So all the stuff that you are getting from your private sector is going to be 60% more effective, right? But commerce basically increases what the private sector get from their own industry, if you follow me. So that's just going to make them grow faster. You might want to go commerce early and then switch into government to reap the rewards of what you built with the commerce. And that might, play nicely with some of these other, things. For example, let's say that, you've got this worker happiness bonus with 50%, which, turns into a net gain in the sense that you don't have to pay your workers so much. You can do this with heart as well, and as we'll see that you can actually pay your troops less with some of the regime feats that you get with heart. So some of these synergize quite nicely too. Intensive worker training in government gives you a public industrial bonus of 60%, and then the worker elite gives you a worker happiness bonus of 100%. So worker elite basically means you just don't have to pay them very much. Workers are not yet treated as royals, but they do receive many privileges. Right, so they get loads of privileges, they're happy, and that means you don't have to pay them so much. And you don't have to worry less about rebellions, about worker uprisings, that kind of stuff. Okay, so as you can see, commerce, like early game, commerce, you want to go there if you're expecting to need a lot of credits in your bank. You can go for the tax bonus 50%. That's really, really big. The private economy bonus of 40% will help your economy grow faster, but with government, you get the bureaucratic bonus. Government seems like a bit of a no-brainer at the start of the game, but I don't always go that way. I often go in commerce because I really value getting my zones quality of life up as quickly as possible. You can often make do with that, and then because let's look at it this way, right? Commerce is also a way of getting the AI to kind of deal with the quality of life stuff. So let's say that you've not gone into Mind, and Mind gives you this research bonus, so you're going to get slower research. You might not be able to get the university or the barracks or the other quality of life buildings up quite as quickly. Or let's say that you made a noob error like I did in my recent game, and you forget that you need to get these before you break down into this, and you've diluted the amount of discovery, you've increased the amount of technologies the Economic Council has to pick from randomly when it makes a discovery. Well, then that's a problem, right? If you've got no power. but you know, or you can't, or you haven't got the quality of life bonuses particularly. But, well, in that case, you can kind of somewhat mitigate that by, you know, going into these. Where are we? Yeah, you can kind of somewhat mitigate that basically by having this commerce bonus and having the private industry just kind of build their own stuff. So here's how you deal with money in order to give yourself more money, essentially. In enforcement, commerce gives you, makes the private economy bigger, so you get quality of life quicker. Government seems to give you a better bureaucracy, so you can play more strategy, so you can get more of those councils out early. You get more out of all your councils, and the public industrial bonus means that you get more from the commerce that you put in. You need to basically put less of your own money into the zones when you're going in commerce, but when you're going into government, you will need to give them money directly. And the way that you do that, if you remember, is calling up a zone governor, going to zone orders, and then you give them some public budget. And bearing in mind, you also remember that just putting a few credits in will actually give them a happiness bonus anyway. I should have done that on this game. I didn't really know this. This is something that Cranky Corvid told me, who's a guy who just knows loads about the game, even way more than me, because those guys play it like so much, and especially in multiplayer. But he was telling me, yeah, make sure you put a few credits in here, because this will give you a happiness bonus as well. And I don't know if it scales. I think the more you put in, probably the happier they get. But anyway, if you're going in government, it can be worth putting a lot of money into the private sector, into your private economy, so that you are getting assets up quickly, and then you can reap the rewards, in the terms of food or the industrial points or whatever else that you're getting. So there you go. Let's have a look at and so that's how the society profile works. This one is the society, yeah. So that's how society works. I think this is one of the most interesting choices to make at the start of the game, I gotta be honest. I think that this one, which one was it? This was politics. So the politics type is really a kind of, until, I don't know, unless you're sold on the stuff that autocracy gives you, including the kind of a lot of the hidden, the sort of semi-hidden stuff that it does for you, which it does help in a lot of ways. This kind of type here, you really want to be deciding, whether it's you want good leaders basically and leveraging your leaders, or whether you want to be going into democracy and kind of getting less good leaders, but all the leaders have all these kind of bonuses, including that political bonus and the quality of life bonus and all that. So these are kind of important to think about at the start of the game, but I think this one's kind of more interesting, especially if you're interested in the the commercial side of the game and the quality, the private industry side of the game. Okay, finally we're going to get into the psychology profile. As always, we've got a choice of three. We've got fist, mind and heart. Broadly speaking, mind helps you with research and cultural adaptation. Fist is to do with combat, really, and keeping. Early on, it kind of gives you militia bonuses, but yeah, this is kind of this helps with combat, and I'll show you why. And then heart is loyalty, so whether it's the loyalty of your leaders, loyalty of your troops, and that generally results in just less issues for you during the game, and also having to pay people less, just like with government. So let's have a look at them in closer detail. Fist is an interesting one. Kind of like autocracy, it isn't one that I usually think of taking early in the game. However, if you think that you are likely to be on a planet where you're going to be getting attacked a lot early, so let's say that you started on, let's say you've got survival stress on, and then you've got I can't remember what it's called now, but the history lesson where the natives are all a lot more dangerous, then you might want to go into Fist, because the benefits it gives you are 33% of extra militia battalion until round 20, 10% of chance on extra militia regiment between rounds 20 and 100, and then from round 100 onwards you get a 3% chance of an extra militia division from round 100 onwards. So this gives you a steady flow of militia, and militia is really, really useful. And by the way, militia, it's not as good as your regular troops, but it's free. Its upkeep is free. It's you don't have to worry about you have to worry about logistics for transporting and supplying them, but for the most part, you don't have to raise them, and any casualties are replaced according to the SHQ and the supporting zones militancy rating. So militia can be really, really useful, especially in the early game, especially if you're starting without any armies. So this can be good. No retreat's also a really good stratagem. It basically means that you get a massive defense bonus, a massive attack penalty, but you don't get any. So no retreat is allowed. So you don't get 50% less action points, 50% chance to suffer a hit when attacked during retreating. Okay, so what this means is, people just don't retreat, and you can put this on your troops if you need them to hold the line. They just get a massive defense bonus, but you will take big casualties if they do get beaten. So you've got to be a bit careful with that one. But you do get a huge, a 75% infantry defense bonus is really, really big. If you've got those guys in mountains with an entrenched stratagem, and if you've got those guys in mountains or something, you can't have it with entrenchment as well. But because this is a OHQ stratagem, but yeah, this is a really, really good one, and they just won't retreat. Warlust gives you 50% higher casualty tolerance, and you also get ambush. Ambush gives you 75% mechanized defense, other forces defense plus 40, retreat at 10% losses. So this is a really, really good one. What this means is that you can attack with this one, and you only get 10% losses when you're retreating. Overall attack is minus 50% and minus 5% to lose troops on. And 5% to lose troops on retreat. Okay, so you can basically spring an ambush on enemies and get out a little bit easier. Your attack isn't as good. This is often really good for getting reconnaissance points, but it also makes you mechanized troops and infantry defend really, really well. You also get this guy as well, the People's Hero. Their attack value is increased by 40%. That's really, really high. That's really good. Now, here is what I believe to be the crowning glory of the Fist, if you really want to go into it. And I think, okay, so Fanaticism is even better because this is a 40% version. But Esprit de Corps. Now, Esprit de Corps basically gives you a flat combat. It gives you a combat bonus of 25%. This is absolutely huge. It's massive. So when you saw that combat earlier, the game works out your combat bonus. It basically works out what your combat's role is, and then it just adds a 25% bonus to that. So it's massive. Like, this is the difference between winning a battle and losing it. So if you really want to go into combat early, war early in a game, you could do worse than to go into meritocracy, into autocracy and Fist earlier on. I used to play like this, and it really helps you expand out very, very fast and deal with the problems that you get from fast expansion when you haven't got democracy, meritocracy, and some of the others. So yeah, it helps you deal with some of the issues that you might come up with if you you've not got decent leaders. They're not very happy because you're not paying them much. Well, okay, just assassinate them. Or some of the things that this does as well. We've got militarized politics. This is 100% higher casualty tolerance. Then you get defeat in detail as your stratagem. Defeat in detail gives you a double concentric attack bonus, but overall defense is minus 30. This is quite big, so if you like encircling people and then destroying them, you can do this really, really easily with this. Fanaticism gives you a 40% combat bonus, so that's even bigger than the one in Esprit de Corps. And then you get Suicidal Offensive as one of your stratagem cards. Infantry attack at 100%, but infantry defense minus 75. No retreat allowed, no entrenchment, 20% chance to die under fire. So these guys, that means they die in droves, but they just get a massive, massive bonus. If you like using infantry waves attacks like I do, this could be fun. If you're going like in some sort of communist Russia, Soviet Union style in the World War II, where they were just using huge infantry wave attacks, you might want to go high into government and fanaticism to try and play that one. Total War Mentality gives you 200% higher casualty tolerance. So if you are in a big long war and you're finding that your people are unhappy because they've gone over their short-term and long-term casualty thresholds, and that's making them unhappy, well, that profile is going to reduce that. So yeah, they've got a much higher 200% casualty tolerance. And then we get shock and awe as well. Mechanized forces and artillery at 100%, but overall defense 50%. Costs 5 rounds of ammo and fuel at the start of the round. So at the start, this burns ammo and fuel like in big style, but you just get 100%, like it doubles the effectiveness of mechanized and artillery in attack. So that's really, really scary. So, you know, basically Fist is your war. If you're really going to war early on, or maybe at the end of the game, you really want to go high into this. You know, Esprit de Corps is not to be sniffed at, so is Fanaticism. Okay. Contrary to that, we've got Mind. Mind gives you, in the first regime feat of Technology Fascination, gives you a 30% research bonus. And then we get Infiltration as well. 30% research bonus is pretty big. And I usually go with this, to be honest. I usually go quite high into Mind in my games. You know, I at least try to get into logical thought. This is the third level, and this is where you get 40% research bonus. So you're only going up by 10%, but it's massive. And if you remember what I said about if you're playing the game on slow research or epic research, those modifiers really they become very much more meaningful than if you're playing on normal. So that could be worth going into. I think this on many games, unless you're expecting a lot of trouble at the start of the game. Let's say, you know, expecting slavers. If you're expecting like mages on your border and slavers at the start of the game, then Fist is a bit of a no-brainer actually. But Mind can be really good if you're, you know, expecting a little bit more peaceful game at the start. Getting that research bonus is really powerful. The Techno Mage is pretty good as well. Anybody attacking this unit suffers a minus 50% penalty in their attack. So if you put this in a in a very valuable unit, anything attacking them gets a minus 50% attack penalty. So that's pretty significant. Curiosity gives you cultural adjustment bonus of 40%. That means that zones that you take in Conquest you'll be able to get more money out of them quicker. Basically, you'll be able to get more recruitment and colonists and troops. The cultural adjustment is a little bit the adaptation score is a little bit complex. So early on, you know, the militia troops you'll get out of them will be of their own culture, and then gradually it'll adapt, and then you'll start getting more of your own culture as it adapts. So you got these different cultures types. I can't remember if Daz Tactic did a video on culture. I think he did. If so, go and check that, because he usually covers stuff quite well. And apart from what's in the manual, I don't really pay attention to cultural adaptation too much, to be honest with you. So I don't really value curiosity that much. However, fluid defense is a nice card. Infantry and artillery get 40% on defense. And then mechanized forces get minus 30 on defense but 30 on attack. That's a nice all-round thing that you can leave mechanized forces in, generally speaking, because the infantry are going to defend well, but the mechanized, you know, then you can leave, then they get the bonus for the mechanized troops attacking. Logical thought gives you 40% research bonus, and rush gives you more action points, basically. A slight loss of defense. You also get the engineer team, so these recover 50 lost entrenchment points every combat round. Pretty good. Universal Truth gives you a 60% cultural adjustment bonus, which I think is a bit meh. You guys might know a little bit more whether cultural adjustment is a big thing or not. I don't really feel that it's a big issue. Now, on a game like this, let's say you expand very fast, right, like I did in this game, and you're taking a lot of new territory fast. All of a sudden, you know, you're going to have to pay workers, right? Because you've got to get quality of life buildings up in these places, because they're kind of like dumps that the AI or the minor regimes hasn't really been, been very careful with. And so you've got to pay all your workers. The problem is that the private economy, or the happiness is so low that these people aren't being taxed. You can't really tax them because you can't actually incorporate the zone. So the quicker you get them happy, the better. So in that respect, a cultural adaptation score going up might be very good. So Mind does have an effect if you are playing aggressively, and that's that cultural adaptation score bonus. Like I say, I haven't really noticed it being a big thing, but it might be one of those things that I just didn't notice, and it was helping me. But I went quite high on that in this game. Okay, then you get the siege stratagem. Artillery attacks at 100%. And infantry attacks at 50%, but you get less action points and less defense. That's huge. If you are sieging out a city and you put your artillery, maybe you got a siege infantry brigade, or a division or something, and or an army, and you put those guys into that, then yeah, you are going to be pounding them with the artillery. Scientific religion gives you research bonus of 50%, so this is the third level of this, and you get mobile ops stratagem. Action points 30%, mechanized forces attack at 30%, but minus 40% overall on defense. And then academic mentality, this gives you a cultural adjustment bonus of 80%. And also gives you small pockets. Infantry get 40% on attack, mechanized forces get 30 on attack, infantry get -30 on defense, and morale growth 100%. Okay. The developer Vic obviously thought the cultural adjustment bonus was important, because he's made that 80% cultural adjustment bonus really, really high into mind, which is quite hard to keep. So yeah, it's obviously a big thing. Finally, in the psychology profile, we've got heart. First level of heart gives us national pride. Now this gives us a morale bonus of 40%. So morale comes from, is modified by a bunch of things. Morale affects your combat statistics. So, a unit with low morale when it's fighting in combat is going to be a real problem for you. If you've got high morale, you get a decent. You don't get any penalties, but if your morale is low, you start getting big penalties for low morale, as you do with readiness, and as you do with you get benefits for experience, all that kind of stuff. So it's just another one of these modifiers for combat. It does have other effects though. So morale is partly kept up through paying your troops. So if you've got a morale bonus of 40%, you have to pay your troops a lot less, basically. It also unlocks hold the line. Infantry forces get 50% on defense and -60 on attack, and they retreat at 80% losses. So yeah, they get massive losses if they do have to retreat. Sorry, they retreat when they get 80% losses. That means they won't retreat for ages, but they will eventually retreat. However, they get a big, they get a 50% attack bonus. So sorry, defense bonus. Friendship gives you character loyalty bonus of 40%. This is pretty important. The net effect of that is that when your leaders are more loyal, their relation with you is going to be higher. So, and the higher their relationship with you, not only do they perform better, all the skill rolls they make will get this bonus because they've got high relations, and that's huge. Happy people with a high relation to you will basically perform way better. You'll get more food out of your governors. You'll get more research out your council directors. You just get your game is just going to be easier, basically. So this is like making your game. This is like a button that you push to make your game way easier. Okay, so getting character loyalty bonus is really, really good. You also have, it means that you're saving money on paying them as well, and then you're saving political points because you don't need to keep giving them medals of merit, and you don't have to throw money at them to keep them happy. It also unlocks force march. That's yeah, you get more action points, basically, with a bit of an attack penalty for your infantry. Joint struggle gives a people loyalty bonus of 50%. So I think the people loyalty bonus affects how happy they are in a roundabout way, if I remember right. Again, it's one of those things that I can't quite remember exactly how that one works. I think that's basically what it is. I think the net effect of the loyalty. Yeah, like we've got. The lower the loyalty, the more chance things can turn sour in case of unrest. Furthermore, it impacts your recruitment efforts. Okay, so the higher the loyalty, and that's affected partly by by cultural adaptation, by the way. The higher the loyalty, the less unrest events you're going to get. So this is population happiness, blah blah blah. So yeah, keeping them happy, always a good thing, and that comes with joint struggle. You also get the stratagem retreat. So defense at 30% and attack at -40%, and we retreat at 10% losses. What that means is you can set these guys on retreat as a stratagem, and then attack into an enemy. You get all your reconnaissance points, and then they retreat when they've only taken 10% losses. So that means that you're also defending. You've got a better defense score, so you're going to take less shots. So this can be good to tie the enemy down, right? You attack, you tie up that, you reduce their readiness points because they're engaged in combat, and then you retreat when you get 10% losses, so you're preserving your troops. But yeah, that's combat is another thing that I need to do a video on. And again, Daz Tactic did a really good video on combat, and I had to watch that to really understand it, actually. But I think I can go even deeper. No disrespect to Daz. Daz could also go much deeper now. I think he's played this game way more than I have, I think. But I've got my own opinions on it, and I think that I will do that. However, there's loads of cool stuff you can do with combat, and this is another thing that Cranky Corvid told me, by the way, or through the comments. A very helpful person when he watches my videos, which is really cool. He actually told me that pay attention to some of the stratagems, because some of these affect retreat, and being able to retreat without taking losses is is actually quite an interesting ability to have. Okay, we get rallying flag. This comes with a morale bonus of 60%. So this is like the upgraded version of National Pride. We get the flag barrier. The troops it's embedded with ignore startup attack penalties. So that's pretty good. So if you give this to an infantry unit, basically they're going to be attacking right at the start of the map, at the start of the combat rounds. It also gives you charge, which is a OHQ feat. So infantry attack at 80%, but morale and experience growth are at minus 75%, as well as overall defense minus 40%. Okay, this is a way of like just basically getting a massive bonus on your on your infantry's attack if you like to use infantry. But they get a defensive penalty, so you don't want to be attacked in return, and they'll take more casualties. But the morale and experience growth is gonna be less, so they're gonna lose a lot of morale. Basically, they won't get their morale back quick. However, you might want to use this just for a final push to really win a critical battle. Band of Brothers gives you character loyalty bonus of 80%. That's big. That just means you're going to have really happy leaders for the reasons we've explained before. And then we can use a stratagem called economize, half the food cost, but morale growth 50%. So yeah, if you've got less food, basically, you might be able to use that on your OHQs, and then that's going to give you, it's going to mean that you use less food. And then you've got a camo team, 50% chance the unit they're embedded with manages to hide away every time they're attacked. So this is like, this is like a 50% ward save. And then we got total trust in leaders, people loyalty bonus at 100%, and it gives you the stratagem fortress, entrenchment and maximum entrenchment plus 70%, and overall defense is 30%, but it reduces your action points and overall attack by 70%. Very, very good for defense. Okay, we've been through it all, and I'm going to wrap this video up because it's over an hour long now, and you're probably getting sick of hearing my voice. Let's just say that the way that you plot your trajectory through the game is really, really important. Honestly, it's taken me an hour just to go through what they all do. We've not even talked about possible strategies for the game, so let's do that relatively briefly. I'll tell you how I go about it generally, okay? Often I'll start a game with meritocracy because I want the good leaders. And then I will quickly go into democracy because I want that political bonus. Political bonus 40% is really, really big. It helps you play more stratagems. It helps you, do better with decisions. You've just got more political points to make everything, to oil the cogs of your industrial machine, so to speak. So I want to get into that quite quick. Quality of life bonus for conflict resolution is really, really important as well. This stacks up really nicely with commerce. So if you go commerce and democracy early, you're going to be working on your private industry in a big way, and that works also that synergizes quite nicely with heart as well. Okay, you don't need you don't need research so much because you don't need to get the private sector will build its own commercial buildings and build a quality of life. Okay, so you don't need to worry quite so much about going into about getting the research out as fast for getting your own quality of life buildings. So if you're not planning on having a military, an early military themed game, if you're playing more, let's say that you've gone with an early foreign affairs council and you're playing on a map where you've got lots of farmers and you want to try to wow the farmers into joining your wonderful regime, then having a high quality of life, getting the commercial sector to do that stuff for you is really, really helpful. So going democracy and commerce and maybe heart, you're going to be making a lot of private sector money. That means you're not going to be needing to pay so much money into getting zones to grow. You don't need to pay your leaders and military so much. That's a really good way of like utilizing your utilizing this synergy. Meritocracy is obviously good. Like let's say if you're expecting an early war, autocracy with the bunker busters is nice. Some of these stratagems that autocracy gives you is really quite nice. I don't think firing squad is great. I don't remember using it a whole lot actually. Every combat round, it is capable in executing troops that are retreating in order to give a plus 50 morale bonus to up to 3 troops for still fighting. These guys might very well be a mixed blessing. So these guys execute your own units basically in order to, it's like a, what do you call them? Is it the commissar? It's like they're kind of commissars basically. The guys that used to shoot the troops who are retreating. So yeah, that might be useful, but it does give you a bunch of cards that you can use Autocracy gives you a bunch of cards that you can use to kind of mitigate some of the effects that you get if you don't go into democracy and meritocracy, basically. And it synergizes quite nicely with Fist, I think, and perhaps enforcement as well, which also gives you some nice bonuses. But yeah, so autocracy, Fist, and enforcement might be good if you're thinking that you might have to go to war quite early, because enforcement gives you the tax bonus, so you're going to be paying people less. You get the logistics bonus. You get some decent stuff like the elite trainer, and the military police, and then yeah, the tax bonus and the logistics bonus is going to keep you in the fight longer, because you're going to have more troops, and it's easier to get them into the front line and keep them supplied. Fist is you're going to get Esprit de Corps, so that 25% combat bonus. Meritocracy gives you the OHQ commander role bonus of 25%, so that stacks really nicely. That's just going to make you a monster in combat. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. Sorry, I was pointing at mind there, but I actually meant to be looking at Fist. So yeah, Fist, autocracy, and enforcement work quite well. And mind, obviously, if you really want to go heavy into the research, and it also gives you that nice bonus of being able to expand very quickly without, and then integrating people into your culture, so you can start taxing them earlier. That will also synergize probably nicely with government as well, I'd say. Yeah, because you're getting the bureaucratic bonus. So go through these trees, have a look what you think about them. Like, this is honestly something that a beginner player can kind of ignore if you're playing on the lower levels, really. Like, especially if you're turning off the epochs and stuff, so you're making life a little bit easier for yourself. You can kind of, if you're a beginner, you might want to play just like, let's say you play commerce, so you don't have to worry about quality of life so much. You could go with hearts, so you don't have to pay people so much, and then just go ruffle stomp. Go with, like, democracy, so you get some of these nice bonuses. Political bonus 60%, quality of life bonus, whatever. And then just go ruffle stomp stuff, and you don't have to worry so much about the the profile. I think for players playing multiplayer, or for playing on the higher difficulty settings like I like to, I think that you can really have a lot of fun with this, kind of figuring out where it is you want to be at a certain time. It's a little bit too late to do this now, because this video is getting very long and I don't want it to be too long. But what you can do is, when you start a map, you might have an idea of like when you're looking at, let's say, the planet overview, you can see that there's 11 major regimes. You look at the apocalypse and you see that there's, let's say you've got a very high proportion of raiders, hunters and scavengers, and you've got less farmers. You might be like, okay, this could potentially be a really, really dangerous map, right? So then you might go, okay, right, I'm going to start off with Fist because I want extra militia. I'm going to start off with enforcement because I want to get into, I want the logistical bonus and I want the tax bonus. Or you might want to go government early because you want to get your industry up as fast as possible, and you need the bureaucracy points, whatever. So just when you come into a map, have a look at your the conditions that you're starting with. If it looks like you're not near anybody very dangerous, you might well think, you know what, I did choose government at the start, so I'm going to go a little way into government, get the bureaucracy bonus, and then I'm going to switch into commerce, and I'm going to go into get to wealthy friends, and then I'm going to go into enforcement. So I get the base of both worlds, and then you've got to play a bit of a game where you've got to juggle these points. One thing I didn't say at the beginning of the game, by the way, is the way that this works. So I think most of you should know this if you're playing Shadow Empire, but decisions will help give you points in each one. When you get over a certain level, it opens up the... God, I'm doing this video backwards, aren't I? But as you go over certain points, so 57, then it will give you the option to go into, or give you the chance to go into efficiency goals. And yeah, so you'll find that you're kind of climbing this at the expense of the others, and each one of these affects the other one negatively. So let's say you've got 57 points in enforcement, and then you raise government over 50%, you'll start to affect enforcement. And if you then go into commerce, you'll start affecting government. And you'll see the arrows point in the direction of which one affects which. So climbing high in government actually affects enforcement, and climbing high into enforcement affects commerce, and etc. in a cycle. And it's the same with the other profile types. So it's difficult to, not only is it can be difficult to go very high into the tree, because sometimes you're going to be taking decisions where you're not always going to be able to go enforcement. To keep people happy, you might have to go into commerce. To keep your factions happy, you might have to go into commerce. This is a really, really deep and rich system, okay? And it's very, very hard in the middle. it's more difficult to keep meritocracy up. I think it's a little bit easier now, as I said, but juggling democracy and autocracy can be possible if you've got decent economy, because you can, like, you can kind of crush rebellions through either throwing money at them, or you can bring the jackboot down, and you can kind of balance democracy and autocracy a little bit. And don't overlook some of these cards that autocracy gives you. It can be really good, and having the Politburo can be really good. So just come up with the synergies of each one. Figure out what kind of planet type you're on, figure out what your neighbors are going to be like, and then plan your trajectory through the game. These bonuses that you get in the early game, like 40% political bonus, is massive. 50% quality of life bonus is massive. Where are we? Tax bonus 50% is massive. Bureaucratic bonus 40% is massive. You get the picture, right? These are meaningful decisions. So this is a way for you to tailor your empire in the way that you want to play. So this is like many games usually have this hard coded into different faction types. They might have different races or faction types in games that have better. Some have got better, research. Some are like more friendly with people. Shadow Empire has got this sliding scale that allows you to decide what you want to do. This is a really mature system. It's incredibly good game design. I don't think I've seen game design this tight in a lot, in ever, basically. And I don't mean to worship Vic too much, but he is an amazing game designer, and it's really rare to see a system that's as fun to use as this, that is also kind of optional and so deep, with so many interactions and little hidden things. Like the idea that going into autocracy, well, it gives you this, these hidden bonuses that aren't really, that you have to read the manual to find what they do, or read the tooltips sometimes. But going into autocracy has other effects. Meritocracy pretty much gives you better leaders. That's one thing that doesn't sell you here. And democracy, I think, gives you worse leaders, actually. But then democracy will give you get more leaders with democracy, I think. And I think that with you get more faction requests, and I think the factions will give you more leaders for free if you go into with democracy. So there's so many little hidden things with each of these, particularly these three in the top. The politics type, that actually affect elements of the game that aren't immediately obvious from the profile info tree. Alright folks, let's end the video there, because I don't want it to go too far. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of an overview of at least how I approach this. I've shown you that the profile tree is the way that you use to build your, the core foundation of what you want to do with your empire. You want to go heavily into the private sector, or you want to go heavily into government, so you're getting more from your private sector into your, into the governments, into what you can actually physically use from it. Or, you want to just tax the hell out of people and get more, cash on hand. You want to get more political points, whatever. And then you can build out from there, and you can mix and match these a little bit. And if you play the game carefully and you pay attention to the factions, you pay attention to the decisions that you're getting, and you nurture your people in a way, because we've not even talked about the fact that the leaders like different profiles. Look, some of them like commerce, some of them hate, some of them love mind and meritocracy. Keeping them happy, by the way, and keeping these profiles high will gradually bend them all to what you like. So if you really like meritocracy, you keep going into it. Eventually, most of the factions and your leaders will kind of like it. You'll get the odd guy like this guy who just hates everyone. He hates commerce. So, these will start to change over time. I've only scratched the surface of this system, of the complexity and the wonder of this system in this, 80-minute video that I've done. So I hope this has inspired you to go and take another look at this tree and figure out how it is that you want to play your empire. And on the higher difficulty settings, it might be how you got to play in order to survive. And on the lower difficulty settings, it might just be a fluff thing. I want to play autocratic fist is the way that I go. Or you might want to play more peacefully. So you pick the play style, whether that's through necessity or just through desire. It's entirely up to you. Enjoy this wonderful game. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I kind of did it a little bit backwards. I'm sorry, I didn't really think about this much before I did it. So I apologise in advance for kind of explaining how it works at the very, very end after explaining what it all was. But I think that, during the course of explaining all these different things, you should have got a bit of a feel for, you know, how you can approach building this in your into your game. Tell me what you think about this in the comments, folks. All criticism is welcome. I particularly like it when people tell me if I'm doing something wrong. So if you think I'm rambling too much, I'm changing topic. If you think that I should be a little bit more prepared for it, let me know. I do think these things myself. But if you like it, also let me know, because the more, you know, the more feedback I get, the better the videos get, and the more often I'm tempted, you know, I'm kind of encouraged to put them out. And if enough people are enjoying them and watching them and finding them useful, then I'll keep doing more. I wasn't really going to do kind of tips videos on Shadow Empire, because I think Daz Tactics really got that thing covered, and he's a friend, and I'm not, part of it is I don't want to tread on his toes. I don't think he'd be that bothered, but I don't want to tread on Daz's toes. The other thing is that I think he's just better at explaining things than I am. But people have been asking me to do it, and because people have been asking me to do it, I see an opportunity to make videos. I love talking. I love talking about this game particularly. I just think it's so fun. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be hurting anything if I put out the occasional tips video as well. And I tend to go into quite a lot of exhaustive detail with stuff. So if that's your thing and you enjoy it, let me know, man. I really want to hear about it. And also, tell me what I've got wrong. You know, what have I missed? Part of the joy of doing this strategy, the Shadow Empire strategy podcast was that not only was Vic reading them or listening to it and then reading all the comments, but everybody got to have a bit of a discussion, and it really made my game better, because I'm just a YouTuber, right? But there are people who play these games. Like I mentioned Cranky Corvid, one of the guys from the War of the Worlds community. He knows this game way better than me, right? And there's so many other people in the Matrix forums and these, all over Steam forums who know this game better. And I love it when you come and correct me on stuff. And it's part of the reason why I don't prepare too much, because sometimes it allows you guys the option to kind of come in and go, hey Ben, you were wrong, here's why you don't want to go with commerce sucks. Don't ever choose it. I love autocracy, here's why you should go into it. And then you guys get to kind of contribute to it, and then like Vic gets to see it and he gets more feedback, and other players get a chance to kind of have their say. Okay guys, that's it. Take care. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.